And welcome back. Most importantly, welcome back to the channel, and to each a good day. And we are underneath our 2012 Ram 1500, otherwise known as a Project X or a Candy Apple, if you're watching the series. And in this series, we're just going to do a fluid change on our rear differential here. This has been probably the I would say, yeah, not probably, but is the only fluid that hasn't been changed out in this entire rebuild. And yes, if you've been watching the previous video series, you know that we actually have a replacement differential to go into this housing. It's an Eaton True Track, as well as all new bearings, races, seals, the whole 9 yards. Because right now we currently have an open differential, and we will in the future be going over to a limited slip differential. But before we switch out our differential and go over to a limited slip, we want to complete the tuning on the truck, meaning getting the wideband O2 installed, and getting things looking the way we want them to look, you know, get some track times and some test times in, and then we'll change the differential out and run those same track/test times and kind of see how things either improve or don't improve, which way that's going to fall. Now, along with the rear differential, when we do it, we'll also be changing out from the 355 gears that are in here now over to a set of 410 gears. And that'll all come with the differential swap. But on this one, what we're going to be doing is just wanting to get the old fluid out of here, because we don't know the condition of the fluid. We don't know if the previous owner of this truck changed this rear diff at all. Maybe they've done a diff service on it, maybe they haven't. So it wouldn't be a bad idea before we take it to the track as far as our tuning process, and at least put some nice fresh lubricant back here for those tests. Now, on this particular differential, it's a bit on the nicer end. You can actually see on this one, we actually have a fill plug up there at the top. And on this one, we actually do have a drain plug down here at the bottom, which is nice, because a lot of differentials don't come with the ability to basically be able to do a drain and fill without having to drop the back cover. Now, I'm going to make sure that we can crack this fill plug loose before we do anything else. And then we're going to go ahead and drop this back cover, because not only do we want to drain the fluid out and kind of look at it and see how nice or bad it looks, and I just want to get an idea of what the gears, the current pinion gear and ring gear in here look like before we go, you know, really hammering on it. And again, just kind of give us a general idea of the health of this. So, in case you're curious, that fitting right up there, our fill fitting, I'm just going to point to it. This is a 14 millimeter Torx. Just to show you the bit here, in case you're curious. Yeah, bit does say it's 14 millimeter. This is just a Power Tools torque bit set. I picked this up just at the local. I think I got this particular set at O'Reilly's. Yeah, when I say it's just an O'Reilly's set, as you can see there, comes with some rather beefy sized Torx, which are all supposedly impact rated sockets. But anyway, I digress, I'm rambling. So what I want to do is I'm going to make sure that I can break, again, that fill plug loose first before we do anything, because obviously if that is seized in place and won't move, then obviously we won't be doing anything, because it won't do us any good to drain the fluid out of this differential if we can't easily put it back in. And we will be using AMSOil 75W140. The book rates this at 75W140. And I did take advantage of RainManRay's link to be able to purchase AMSOil at a pretty decent discount. But we'll cover all that more here in a bit. But for now, again, let me get a socket, a ratchet on that, along with this Torx bit. See if we can get that broken free, and then I'll bring you back. So one moment. And welcome back. So we were able to get that to break free and easily spin out. So just to show you here, so we're good to go with attempting to now loosen up and drop this cover, now that we know that we can successfully refill our differential once we're complete. So again, it's just going to be a matter of loosening up all these cover screws. Let me give you a better shot of it here. So what I'm going to do is we'll loosen up these top two here and leave them loose. That way it'll help hold the cover in place while we break the RTV seal, let it drain. It'll basically just keep the cover from falling forward and falling off on us as we're breaking this RTV loose. And then once it's drained completely, then we'll go ahead and take the top bolts out and get the cover out and take a look at kind of what we got on the inside of things. Now, if we start to see, I don't expect to see at least any carnage, so to speak, because this rear differentials is pretty quiet. It's not making any whining noises, things of that nature. But if we do see any abnormal wear, things of that nature, as long as it looks good enough for us to at least complete our tuning, again, we're going to run with it until at such time we're ready to do the entire rear swap. So let me do this. We got our pan ready, as you can see here. We do have the emergency brake set on the truck, and we do have the front wheels chocked. Now, obviously, I don't have the rear end of this jacked up, and it may be something that you want to do, so that way you can rotate the wheels and get this carrier to do a complete revolution. When you're looking at this, I'm not looking to do that here per se, because again, we know that eventually we'll be changing out the entire guts of this case. I just want to get at least see what we can see and use that as a general guide as the overall health. So with that being said, I'm going to crack these bolts loose on the outside of this cover, and then we'll see if we can get this cover off here. Now, we do have a newer cover. You may be commenting to yourselves, you've probably seen it in a previous video. We do have a new differential cover as well as a transmission pan, but before we put the new rear diff cover on it, we'll do that when we do the carrier and the new gears and everything, and kind of just do it all in one fell swoop. But for now, we'll just put this old cover back in place and go from there. So let me start work on getting these bolts cracked loose, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So we got all 12 of our bolts. We got 10 of them removed. We got the 2 at the top. Let me pan you up here a little bit. There we go. We got the 2 at the top. Just they're in there, but they're loose. And now what we can start to do, in case you're curious, they are 13 millimeter. And currently, as with most rear diff covers, it's just held on with just a bead of silicone. There's no gasket. Now, I did buy a gasket for this, and I'm going to try to go back in. We're using just a gasket rather than a big old bead of silicone, knowing full well that, yeah, I know that's what the manufacturer says to use to seal it with. It's just a bead of silicone, but yeah, like I said, we're going to try it with a gasket, because I much prefer to use a gasket in places where I can use a gasket as opposed to a bead of silicone. Now, if the gasket doesn't work, then obviously we'll have to revisit and reseal it, but either way. So, let me go get some prying apparatuses here and see where we can possibly get between the cover and the diff to start breaking this up. Usually what I like to do, just so I don't mar up the mating surfaces of this, is just to get a plastic trim removal tool, like an old one, and see if I can jam it in between the seams and kind of hammer it in place and start to break some of this seal loose. I'm looking for what, like right there, there's a, let's see if you can see what I'm seeing here. Let me show it to you. Like right here on this corner, there's a little bit of an ear of the differential, and you can kind of just grab the differential cover like right here on both sides. That might be a place we can pry against, so I'll try those. But that's where we sit right now. Again, 2 tight bolts are in, just loose to help hold our cover. Rest of the bolts are out. And I'm going to see if I can get this back cover. So you've got this old RTV to break its seal here. And in case I didn't mention it before, I don't think that I did, this is what Chrysler calls their 9 1/4 ZF differential. So let me get to kind of tugging on this cover a bit, see if I can get this silicone to break loose, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. Let me get you set down here, pan you down a little bit. So what I was able to do is just take an old plastic trim tool, as you can see here, and just kind of caught it on the corner, was able to drive it in. As you can see, we were able to get the RTV to break on this corner. Now you could do this with you know, metal pry tool or with a pry bar. Just be careful, you know, gouge up that mating surface, which is why I'm kind of a little bit paranoid. So let me just, again, just driving in a plastic trim tool. As you can see here, it does a pretty good, it's doing a pretty good job of getting that to break free now that we've gotten it started. And if you've never dealt with gear oil before, I'll tell you, it has one of the most distinct smells in the world, because of all the anti-wear agents they put in it, mainly high sulfur content. High sulfur content smells like you would expect it to smell. Smells exactly like something else. There we go. Now we got a good run. So we'll leave that in there. We'll let that drain. Once that drains out, then we'll work on getting the rest of the cover broke free, and then I'll bring you back. So one moment. And welcome back. So we got our cover pretty much loose all the way around. Only thing that's holding it up right now is just the 2 bolts on top, and it's done a pretty good job of just kind of down to a steady drip here. So I'm just going to take the 2 bolts out of the top and just see if we can get this cover out of here. And I'm going to say, based on the color of RTV that was used on this cover and the amount of RTV that was used on this cover, yeah, somebody's been in here and serviced this before, which I guess is a good thing. I mean, the fluid doesn't look too terrible. It smells like gear fluid. It doesn't smell like it's burnt. It's not dirty. There we go. Tell you what, I'm just going to leave the cover in the pan for now. And then let me get you in here so you can see a little bit more of this easier. We can see our spider gears in here. They look good. I'm not seeing any pitting. I'm not seeing any, you know, excessive wear, nothing missing off the teeth. Well, there's some metal right there. I just got off the side of one tooth, but you're gonna have a little bit of metal wear, I suppose. It's not excessive. It's not like there's a big puddle of metal in the bottom of this diff cover. Yes, and you can see I can just kind of just pull that forward. So we need to rinse that out with a little bit of brake clean, just so we can kind of get this goopy stuff here out here. And yes, I probably should be wearing gloves, but I'm not. Okay, but again, gears look good. I'm gonna get a shop light and take a look at that back pinion gear. but I'm not seeing anything alarming. A little bit of sludge on the bottom of the case, but and like I said, you can see it's somebody used a nice big old gob of orange RTV. I don't think the Mopar stuff would be orange for this particular application, so again, that kind of tells me that maybe somebody's been in here doing this job before. But good, all looks good. Like I said, no excessive metal fragments that I could find. So what I'm going to do is finish getting the goop out of the bottom of this differential case, give it a little bit of a kind of spritz with some brake clean, let that dry off a little bit, and then we'll see about getting this RTV off of here, and then go for a little bit of reassembly. But again, we're going to go back with a cork gasket, or I should say a paper gasket on this, rather than the RTV. Yeah, there's a bunch of scrape marks inside this cover, so somebody's definitely been in here and definitely serviced it, which I said is a good thing, because the fluid still looked pretty good back here. So at least maybe one service was done to it in its life. Let me okay that. So awesome. So again, just going to continue to clean this up, and then I'll go get a shop light and bring you back so we can get a little bit better view of the inside of everything. And I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So got a little shop light on the action here. So hopefully you can see all that. You can see the wear pattern on the ring gear there. Looks good, looks nice and even. There's not excuse me, there's not big chunks of metal anywhere, which is good. And I can see the pinion gear now, and again, I'm not seeing anything excessive there. There's not a big pile of metal or any chunks or anything underneath inside the bottom of the differential, which again, I kind of expected not to see any of that. So awesome. So what I'm going to do next is work on getting this gasket surface cleaned up. I might go over that with just a little bit of red Scotch-Brite and maybe a carbide scraper, just depending on, get that surface nice and clean and just kind of get it prepped for the replacement gasket, and then we'll get it all cleaned up. We're just going to continue to kind of let that drip as we do our cleaning, and then we'll spritz everything down with a little bit of brake clean just to clean out any contaminants that we may introduce from scraping off all this RTV, let it dry, and then go for the reassembly. But I'll bring you back for all of that. So again, just to kind of give you a little bit of, get you in there a little bit closer. Hold on, let me tilt the camera on the tripod so you get you between the sway bar here. Get you a little bit closer up view on those gears. Like I said, everything looks good, or at least in my opinion. And granted, I'm not an expert, so, but again, I'm not seeing anything that's obvious. But again, I didn't expect to find anything too catastrophic in here or bad in here, because again, it wasn't making any noises. You know, everything sounded good. Again, we're just doing this fluid change preemptively because we don't know the history of the vehicle, and it's good to get this done prior to us hammering on it. And then obviously we'll be doing another fluid change when we take this carriage assembly out of here, or I should say this differential and the ring gear out of here, in opinion, change this out to a limited slip with 410 gears instead of 355. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'll let you go. I'm going to continue to work on getting this surface cleaned up, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So I just got you zoomed in on a little bit of an angle of the differential here. Just in the process of cleaning up this border. As you can see, we're just in the process of, still in the process of getting all the RTV off, but I'm finding it's coming off pretty easily. Just the standard flat paint scraper is getting off the bigger chunks, and then for the smaller chunks, to show you what I'm doing here, and you've seen me use this before in this channel, this is the red Scotch-Brite. So this is the very, very fine Scotch-Brite. not going too aggressive with this, you know, not looking to gouge it or anyway, and that's why I figured this very fine stuff is, you know, relatively safe. I've used them on cylinder heads, things of that nature. Just using a little bit of, in this case, carb cleaner. You can use brake clean if you've got it. Just spraying a little bit onto the Scotch-Brite here. And just to show you, for instance, this area here, you can see it's still kind of nice and orange or reddish in the camera. And you can see that when we're done, let me get the rest of this down here. This red Scotch-Brite does a pretty good job of getting the RTV off of that surface, as you can see there. So we're left with a nice shiny bit of metal. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to concentrate and do the same thing the rest of the way around and finish cleaning up that mating surface. And then I'm going to focus our attention onto the differential cover. And you can see that we still got gear oil as it's making its way from the rear of the diff to the front and just kind of slowly oozing out here. So I'm just going to help keep that along and just drag out as much of that old gear oil. And you get a little bit of sediment, just to show you. This was me dragging the bottom of the diff with just a towel, and you can see all the, you know, old filings and dirt and things of that nature that just accumulates on the bottom. Just kind of drug it out like a drag net. Yeah, you can see there's even just trying to get as much of this gear oil, old gear oil, out here as possible. And it's getting to be pretty sparse as far as what's running out of the case. Now you could, if you've got enough brake clean, something along that nature, and just continuously spray some brake clean in there until you get most of it out. Like I said, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of brake clean. I'm not going to go too crazy on it because, again, the fluid looked to be pretty clean, except for just the sediment down here at the bottom, but we've kind of got most of that out just by hand. Yeah, we'll continue to do that. So let me do that. Continue to let that kind of slowly drip. Finish cleaning up this mating surface, and then we'll pay attention to the cover here. So I'll bring it right back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, you can see this is just got you outside here, just showing you a little bit of the back of the cover. And definitely looks like there's two different colors of RTV that was used on this back cover at one point. You can see the more prevalent orange here, but on the inside border you can see what is more of a black colored RTV. So if I had to guess, I would say that this was the aftermarket RTV that someone used when servicing it, the orange stuff. And then the darker stuff that you see built up on the edges here, this nice bead here, would be what came factory. So interesting. Okay, so again, it just points to more evidence that this at least has been serviced in the past, which is good. And you can see that just accumulation of gunk. So I'm just going to work on getting this back cover cleaned out and sprayed out and get this RTV off of here. And like I said, I'll show you that gasket now. Need to make sure that it fits, but that's what the book said was a Felpro RDS 55073, again for this 12 bolt 9¼ ZF rear end. And yes, I know that some individuals don't like using gaskets. Some individuals don't like using RTV. Again, I'm going to try to go back on here with a gasket because I'd much rather have a gasket to deal with than have to, you know, deal with globbing on a bunch of RTV. And yeah, I know it. The manual does state it, and it does come from the factory that way. But as you've seen me do with transmission services, normally when I do a transmission service on a Dodge, I'll get the entire Wix kit. And the Wix kit will also come with a gasket to use on the transmission pan. And so far, I haven't had issues with the transmission pan leaking using a gasket versus RTV. Again, it's just a preference thing. If you're more comfortable with using RTV on your items, then, you know, so be it, use RTV. Okay, yeah, I need to spray this down. I'm going to scrape this all down with get the RTV off, and then I'll hit it with a little bit of brake clean just to kind of finish it up. But I'm going to concentrate on this, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see that we got our differential cover cleaned up, got all our old sealant off of it, and go ahead and we shot this down with a little bit of carb cleaner, gave it a nice wipe out, and you can see it looks better, phenomenally better than what it did. We also used a thread chaser and went over our bolts as much as we could, and kind of a lot of my fingernail, and just kind of scraped out as much of that old orange sealant as we could. They're not perfect. Unfortunately, I don't have a wire wheel. If I did, then these would have come out looking a lot better than they did, but we've got the majority of them out. They should thread in with no issue. We've got our differential, as you can see there, all nice and cleaned up. You saw that in an earlier shot. I'm going to give the bottom of that diff one final wipe out. You can see it finally stopped dripping after all this time. I'm going to get one final wipe out, give the mating surfaces a quick spray down with some brake clean both here and here, and then we'll get our seal installed. I did check our seal as well, and this seal shape and bolt pattern does match up and line up with our differential cover, so no issues there. So with that being said, let me give the bottom of that diff one final wipe out, make sure that we've got all the old or as much of the old lubricant out as we can get. Again, I'll give it all a final wipe down with some brake clean, and then I'll bring you back. The other nice thing about using the gasket on here is that we can hold it in place with a couple of the bolts, at least until we get it started. Unlike RTV, if we were to put a bead of RTV around here, then you just have to be careful that you don't contact that surface early and kind of disturb it and push it out of position before you get your bolts in. But again, either way, let me concentrate on just doing a final wipe down, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our top cover on. I didn't film it because it was not necessarily difficult, but cumbersome to kind of get it between the sway bar and this upper bar here, and hold the gasket in place at the same time, and then get the bolts to line up. But it wasn't too terribly difficult. You didn't miss much. It was literally just that, getting the gasket to line up, getting the cover on here, and getting the bolts started. Now, the book doesn't specify a torque pattern, so what I did was just keep everything kind of at a corner. So I started in this corner, dropped down to this lower corner, hit this corner, up to that corner, and this top bolt here, as you can see, and then did the opposite, did the bottom corner bolt, and basically just kind of kept going in a crisscross pattern until we all had them good and snug and tightened up. So I think we're good at this point. I've done that a couple of times, did a couple of passes on it. I think we're good with the cover. We've got a cover, so obviously the cover's back on. I think we're good here. We're going to take the fill plug out the side of it now and get this filled up, and I'll bring you back and kind of show you that process of it. So what I'm going to do is, in typical fashion, you've probably seen several others do this, is I'm going to fill until it starts to kind of pour out of the fill hole, and that'll let us know that we've reached our fill mark. Now, according to all data, this is supposed to hold about 2.1 to 2.2 quarts. But again, we shall see. I'm just going to use the fill hole as the gauge on this. So let me go get the bags of fluid and get you set up, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. You can see I got you fixed in our fill plug here with just this plug at the top. Remember, we've got the fill here and the drain at the bottom. Now, we didn't crack the drain loose because obviously we removed the back cover to do some inspection. And I just want to show you the product we're using. Let me move you back here a little bit. As I commented on before, just using some AMSOil Severe Gear 100% synthetic 75W140. And once again, thanks to RainManRay and his channel and posting his reseller link, which allows you to go out there and then, if you wish, create an account of your own to be able to buy AMSOil at a fairly decent discount. Now, I also turn around and joined their club, and I grabbed the wrong size socket, but I also joined their club to get an additional discount on top of that. So we actually got 3 bags of what you see here, because again, we need about 2.1 to 2.2 quarts to fill this up. So we got 3, so we should have more than enough. But like I said, I was able to use his reseller link, go out there, create my own account, sign up for their customer club, or it's customer something, I forget the exact terminology, got an additional discount on that. And basically, I guess what I'm saying is, long story short, it makes for some really decent pricing on this stuff. Now, we loosened this up earlier, so I could just kind of come in here and just kind of take the rest of that out by hand. And want to do, and now the smell of this stuff, as I commented on earlier, has got a lot of sulfur and anti-wear agents in it, so it kind of makes it smell like, for lack of a better word, farts. So you be prepared to release your inner 5 to 7 year old, because as you saw, we've got the squeeze bags, which make this job easier because you're not dealing with the rigid bottle that you normally, or you would stereotypically get gear oil in. And it makes it potentially make kind of a sound as you get towards the end of the bag. So that sound combined with the smell, like I said earlier, prepare to release your inner 5 to 7 year old. Well, but let me pause you and get you in a you're in a good spot, but let me pause you so I can get this bag open, so we're not wasting time while I fight to get this seal off of here, and I'll bring you back. One moment. Okay, welcome back. We're going to try that. I got you zoomed in a little bit. Got our first bag prepped and ready to go. Again, now these bags are interesting. They've recently become popular and started to come out, I've noticed, in the US within the last, probably 5 or so years. Now, I occasionally vacation in Germany, and I've noticed that they've actually had these type of squeeze bags probably for the last couple of decades at this point. And you can actually get, even Canada, if I remember correctly, even had these before we did. And you can get, I've seen it up in Germany, more than just gear oil in these squeeze bags. They've got transmission fluid and most of their fluids that you can kind of get in squeeze bags. So nice to see that we are adopting. So there we go. We're just going to give this a squeeze. Start getting all this nice new fluid in there, which is quite a bit clearer. Oh, there we go. Like I said, prepare to release your inner 5 to 7 year old. I know I shouldn't laugh, but it makes me laugh every time. Okay, so that's the first bag. That's roughly a quart. So let me pause you so I can prep the second bag, and I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So I got bag number 2 prepped. Same process. I did take what was left of the first bag that I couldn't quite squeeze out and dump it into the second bag, just so we weren't trying to minimize our waste here. There's maybe about a quarter cup left in the first squeeze bag. Same process as before. Now we might fill up here early. I know I'm blocking your shot. I apologize. Because its book says only 2.1 to 2.2, and depending on how much we were actually able to drain out, it may fill up before we get to the 0.1 or 0.2. You can see how much easier these squeeze bags make this. Now, if you've got the rigid bottles, one thing you can do if you've got the pump, you know, it makes it easier to use the rigid bottles if you've got a pump. You can see we got a little bit of drippage there, but that may just be from what ran out of the bag. So that's roughly 2 bags. I'm going to repeat the process again. Let me go prep the 3rd bag. I'll dump the remaining contents of this one into the 3rd one, again, just minimizing our waste. And then I'll bring it back. But that's 2 quarts thus far. 1 moment. And welcome back again. Okay, so I got the 3rd bag prepped, same as the last time, just took the little bit that was left in the 2nd bag and dumped it in the 3rd one. I'm reusing the same cutoff top in case you're curious, just transferring between bags. I will save the ones that we do not cut and just kind of throw them in the toolbox, because those tops do come in useful for other things. Now, we're definitely not going to need, or we shouldn't need, this entire 3rd bag. So we're going to just kind of go until it starts to run out on a pretty even pace here. And then we'll stop. Oh, there we go. Hopefully you can see that. We're running out a pretty good bit. We're going to let that run out until that stops at kind of a drizzle, and that means that we're full. So yeah, the book was right. We're probably right about 2.1 to 2.2 quarts. So now that that's running out and we've reached our mark, and hopefully you can see that there. Let me get you a little bit closer. You can see how much clearer that fluid looks versus what came out of it. So let me do this. Let me go get the fitting to put that the correct Torx bit to put that plug back in, and I'll bring you right back. 1 moment. And welcome back. You can see we're kind of just teetering off there on our drippage. So we're going to take our plug, now it doesn't take much to tighten these. You don't have to put an impact wrench on them or give it the full ugga-duggas, just until they're snug. They are a tapered fit from my understanding, because they are pipe plugs. There we go. There we go. Just again, just snug, kind of basically hand tight is about all they take. You definitely don't want to drive them in, you know, so tight you end up pushing them through the case. I've known individuals that say that they've seen it. Take a little bit of brake clean. Just kind of clean up our mess. We'll let that evaporate, and we should be good to go. And then we'll take it out for a rip a little bit later, but I won't do that on camera. But we'll take it out and take a listen to it. So with that being said, well, I got you staring at the fill plug here. Hopefully you found that useful. There is one other thing I do want to show you though, in reference to this. So let me pause you, bring you back out from underneath the truck, and I'll be right back. 1 moment. And welcome back. So the one thing I wanted to show you here is this is the RTV we scraped off the back differential cover, and you can kind of see it falling apart into mush. And if I remember correctly, this orange RTV is not the correct stuff to use when it's going to be submerged under oil for an extended period of time. And again, you can kind of see it just kind of pulling apart. It's like it cured, but it didn't really cure on the inside of that cover, where this was more inside the differential than in between. But either way, I just want to kind of point out what I was seeing there. But I will let you know how it works out with that paper gasket. If it continues to hold well and not leak, I'll let you know. And obviously, if it does leak, I'll do another follow-up on it and show you that it didn't hold out as well as we thought. But so far so good, not seeing any drips. But hopefully you found this video helpful. It is doable. Just take your time with it, clean your surfaces real well,
And before you do anything, make sure that you can get that top fill port or plug removed before you drain. If not, and you drain it first and you find out that top fill plug is seized, you're going to be in for a bit of a rough day in that case. Once again, I want to say thank you to RainManRay for putting out his link, which allowed us to get a discount on our AMSOil purchases. So thank him once again for that. I'll link him in the text of the video, and also down below in the description will be a link to his channel. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. If you have, I thank you immensely. We are continuing to march forward to that 3,000 subscriber goal. Hopefully we can hit it before the end of the year. If we hit it by the end of the year, that is awesome. If we exceed our goal, again, that would be tremendous. But with that being said, I will let you go, and I will bring you back for the next one. Thank you much. Bye.